Access TV is adding to their already impressive lineup of rock and roll TV. They're host to the Rock and Roll Road Trip with Sammy Hagar, The Big Interview, where Dan Rather interviews musicians like Greg Allman, B.B. King, John Fogerty, and Lindsey Buckingham. And then there's the catalog of incredible live shows, live from Abbey Road, and the extensive festival coverage. Now you can add Eddie Trunk to the mix. He'll be hosting some of the best documentaries on a show called Reel to Reel on the last Tuesday of every month on Access TV.
Actually, all in all, there's about 20. There's 12 that are kind of getting the feature spotlight treatment. There's one that I really love that has been around for a little while, but it's never been shown on TV. It's called Not Dead Yet, and it's about a guitar player named Jason Becker. And people that don't know Jason's story, he had just gotten the gig joining David Lee Roth's band as the replacement for Steve Vai. Major gig. He's making his first record with David Lee Roth, and he was diagnosed with ALS and was given 6 months to live, and that was over 20 years ago. And he's still alive and can only really move his eyes, but he makes music with his eyes, and it's a really powerful story. So that's coming up in the series. There's also one that's really dark, and that's about a story about Dave Navarro from Jane's Addiction, and his mom was murdered when he was a kid, which a lot of people don't even know. So there's a number of really compelling, really interesting stories, and some are more uplifting, some are darker, as documentaries will be, but they all surface and surround music. They're all based on music and different genres of it.
Eddie's a fan, first and foremost, of music. No matter how close he is to these guys in the bands, he's not afraid to speak his opinion, and he hasn't always rubbed people the right way.
It's not that I've pissed people. I pissed people off, but they haven't. The biggest obstacle, without a doubt, in this area is social media and the internet, because 99% of the time, if someone was upset about something I may have said, they actually didn't even understand what I really said. They didn't even really hear it themselves. It's totally been taken out of context or blown up in unbelievable proportion through super fans on the internet who just want to get in that artist's good graces, or are so hypersensitive that if you just say one thing that's not in line with the company line, you're the outcast and you're the problem. So I deal with that all the time. And hopefully, my hope is that if an artist thinks that I said something that they're not happy about, that they at least, most of them know how to get in touch with me and say, hey, what's going on? What did you really say? Because 9 times out of 10, it's not nearly what they thought I said. And yeah, sometimes I was critical of something. Sometimes I did say I didn't like something. But the biggest problem I have is that you just get these 2 or 3 fans that just get online, and whether it's Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and they just blow something radically out of proportion because they feel that it's going to ingratiate them more to these artists. And that's the biggest obstacle I have to deal with. Eddie
Trunk always has an opinion. And one of the biggest debates right now is the Axl Rose AC/DC debate.
Well, I went to the first show with the first Guns N' Roses show. I thought that at that show, I saw Axl after the show, and it was about a week before it was announced he was going to do AC/DC, but the rumor had been out there. And I didn't believe it. I didn't think that the rumor was true. And then at that show, when I saw him after Guns played, he kind of said to me, yeah, it's true. He said, and I am doing it. I was like, really? And he said, yeah, and we talked about it a little bit. But I think that it's a smart move for AC/DC because they had to do something big. Now, what really happened with Brian Johnson, I think that story is still yet to come out, and that's a whole other conversation. But as far as Axl's involvement in doing this with AC/DC, I think that it is something that AC/DC had to do because they needed a major name person to keep those tickets sold. There were a lot of people that are yelling out, hey, get this guy, get that guy. No. You've got stadiums sold. You can't come out there with an unknown guy. You needed a guy with a massive marquee name that those people who bought those tickets were not going to be upset and be able to say, okay, you know what? Even if this doesn't really work, I have to be able to say I saw Axl Rose sing with AC/DC. So it worked. It made a lot of sense for AC/DC to do that. I think the question now becomes, what do they do going forward? Do they continue as a band? Do they end? Do they actually try to share Axl Rose with Guns N' Roses? Those are the questions that I have right now. But it seems to have worked pretty well. And Axl vocally with Guns N' Roses and with AC/DC, I think it's been better than he's been in years. I mean, his voice, people are really... It was the most incredible thing for me after seeing that first Guns N' Roses show. It's like his voice was really there. And part of it could also be that he's not moving as much because he's got a bad leg. So maybe he's not getting as winded, and moving a little slower and keeping his wind better. But I think his voice has been really, really strong with both bands in these recent shows.
Look for Eddie Trunk to do a live version of that metal show at Rock on the Range this summer, as we hold our breath for it to be picked up for a new season somewhere, anywhere. In the meantime, set your DVRs for Reel to Reel on Access TV, available in the Quad Cities on DirecTV Channel 340 and Dish Channel 167.